If you're thinking about shooting motion picture film in 2025, there's a few things you need to know. So I have shot tons of films, music videos, short films, even a feature that we mostly shot on 16mm, so I feel like I can talk about this with some authority. If you're serious about getting into shooting on film, especially 16mm, you really gotta know the pluses and minuses. So the purpose of this video is to talk through what are the benefits and what are some of the challenges you're gonna face. I'm also gonna show you tons of stuff that I've shot on 16 so you can get a sense of what it looks like. And ultimately you can decide for yourself whether this is something you wanna go down the rabbit hole and pursue. Okay, so first I wanna talk about why it is crazy for you to try and do this, why I think it's a bad idea, because I think that you should look at the downside first, because there's a lot of downsides. So the first one is obvious. I'm sure you're already thinking about it. Film is extremely expensive. When you're shooting motion picture film, you're shooting 24 frames per second. So what does that mean with 16mm? Well, if you have like a 400-foot magazine, which is like the common for, a large 16mm, full-size camera, that 400 feet is gonna get you about 10 minutes of film. So how much does that cost? Well, the film these days is getting more and more expensive. I think you could easily spend $300 to get 400 feet of new 16mm film. That's not any of the equipment, that's not the processing or the scanning. So you wanna talk about development cost and scanning costs? Well, you could do them separately, but really it's already so cumbersome to deal with film. You're probably just gonna wanna do it all in one. And it definitely varies on where you go. There's cheaper options, but like I've dealt with a cheap option that wasn't rushed and it took them 4 weeks to get us the film. That's a long time to wait to see the results, to see if you even shot anything usable. It's not gonna work on a project where you need to see things right away or something that's quickly turned around. So you can realistically expect to spend another $300 to $400 to develop and scan the film. That's 10 minutes of film. So you're talking $600 to $700, which literally comes down to $1 a second if you're shooting 16mm. So that's really expensive. I mean, when you compare it to the cost of digital, which does have some costs like storage, and obviously digital cameras can be maybe a little more expensive to rent, but I mean, there's just no comparison. So that's a huge downside. It's the #1 reason you don't want to be shooting film. All right, #2, these cameras are very difficult to service. They're not making any new 16mm cameras, at least I don't know of any. And the last ones that were made were probably at least 10 or 20 years ago that they were making these things. So cameras that you're gonna find are gonna be really old, like the NPR. I mean, that camera's over 60 years old. Now, it's a testament to the craftsmanship of how they made these things that it's still working, but these cameras are more like cars than the cameras from these days. They're mechanical. They need to be serviced, they need to be lubed, they need to be taken care of. And to be honest, there are not that many technicians who know how to do these things. And the ones that do are gonna be very expensive. So once you get your camera serviced, yeah, it's pretty rock solid. You're gonna be in good shape, but these people are not necessarily around. We had an amazing technician for the Éclair, for the NPR, the camera I just showed you. And I would call him and talk to him on the phone. He had worked in the service center. He was one of the original guys. Well, really, unfortunately, a couple years ago, he passed away. A lot of these folks are just not around anymore. So yeah, you can find people who can service them, or you can buy a working package, but like ones that have been tested and CLA'd are very expensive. So that alone is a big barrier to entry. You don't want to go spend all this money shooting film only to discover that your camera had issues. This is the Éclair NPR. And this thing weighs like 60 pounds once you put the magazine on it. It's so heavy. So of course there are a lot of benefits to shooting film, otherwise why would we do it? It can be kind of addictive, and why is that? Well, for me the first one is actually because it makes you change the way you work. It slows you down. You have to be more deliberate. When you're working with actors, you have to rehearse a lot more. The crew respects it more. Everyone is always kind of on their best behavior and paying total attention to what's going on, because they know that, when you're shooting film, you are not gonna shoot more than 2 takes. Unless you have a lot of money, like 2 takes is the absolute max. And if you can do it at 1, all the better. So everybody's kind of dialed in. The other thing I found is that You shoot a lot differently, like coverage is a lot different because when you're just cross-cutting a bunch of cameras, it's about as basic coverage as you can get. Artistically, I think it's much more satisfying to try and find a really great shot, a really interesting angle that speaks to the scene and speaks to that moment. And then like when you move on to the next moment, you move on to a new shot. So film forces you to think, and I think that's the biggest advantage to working with it. The next thing, of course, about film is the look. The look is amazing. That's kind of the purpose of this video in a lot of ways, is to show you what the look is so you can decide for yourself if you want to use it. The last thing I'll say is this workflow takes you out of your comfort zone, which I think artistically can be really fantastic. It can dial everyone in. It can elevate your work in the eyes of other people. And of course, it differentiates you in a world where there is so much competition and there are so many people making things. You know, you can say you're a filmmaker who shoots on film, and it differentiates what you do. What I would recommend if you want to get started, I think if you were to try this on a shorter film at first, that's definitely what I would recommend. See how you feel about it. Maybe you can scrap some film and do a music video. You can find some old film or film that's been sitting in the freezer for a while on eBay. That's what I would recommend if you want to get started. I'd love if you could check out my film, Bad Animal. This month, I am giving away a signed Blu-ray. You can find the link in the description to go sign up and enter to win. I'd love for you to get it. Of course, we are also online on Amazon and Tubi. You can rent the film or stream it. But this would be an amazing way for you to support our project. Hopefully this is a good resource for you. So if you liked this video, if you found it interesting, if you're shooting film yourself, drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. And of course, please subscribe for more videos like this.